God bless everybody. Today it's November 16th of 2020. This is a short prophecy update on Daniel 8 and how the concession of Armenia to Azerbaijan is going to affect the Middle East and start to amplify and ramp up Daniel 8 by next fall, or by, I've said for a while, the fall equinox of 2021. I believe Daniel 8 will have already occurred, and that means that Iran and the Kurds will align or join, and that Turkey will run over or go over and crush them like a whirlwind, as it indicates in the verses. So we need to look at that prophecy and how that's starting to play out in real time. If you look at all my videos, articles, different things like that, you can find everything that I do on my eschatology page at End of Day Survival at endofdaysurvival.com. You can also check out my Facebook page at End of Day Survival. Please like it. This page has current events, Middle East, as well as global current events, so it's worth checking out. But it mainly tracks Turkey and a number of different things over the Middle East as we walk into the 70th week here. Or you can also check out all my videos on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you like what you see and find value in content and what I offer here. But let's get into what I'm seeing in Daniel 8 and how this concession with Armenia, they conceded. Actually, the day I made my last video, I had made a comment that Turkey has to acquire this northern border to shut Russia out and control that area so they can start to push these Kurds down into Iran. So let's see how and what's going on in that regard. So why are the Kurds important? In Daniel 8, the Kurds or the Medes have to align with Iran before Turkey goes over and crushes them. And so this is what I've been talking about. You need to watch the Kurdish armies being pushed towards Iran as Turkey is trying to genocide them. And this is important. So I found this really interesting site called the Washington Kurdish Institute. And it gives a weekly briefing of all the things that are happening to the Kurds, each country that's affecting them, and what's going on, and how Turkey is now starting to push them out, they're arresting all kinds of people, they're applying pressure on the Kurds. And if you go into this map, I thought this was extremely important. So if we go into this map, we can blow this up, and Turkey now, through the concession of Armenia, is in control of this through Azerbaijan. So Turkey now owns this whole northern border, okay? Armenia, now that they've conceded, their whole government has collapsed. These people are literally burning their homes, fleeing in their vehicles with everything they can get in their vehicles, and leaving this area and moving towards Georgia, which the Armenians have sort of been working with Russia. And so Russia's going to sort of help this mass exodus out of Armenia into Georgia. And so Turkey now has locked this whole border down. He owns this whole border. Russia's not going to be able to get a land, they can't do a land military invasion because they'd have to go through all of this. They can't go through Iran. They can't go through Turkey. They can't go through any of this. So it sort of locks Russia out of this. And so for Russia to get into this game, and they don't want to be in this game anyway, they would actually have to come down through all this. And so Russia would probably concentrate on more of taking Georgia over, especially now that they're helping the Armenians up here. So what we're going to see is they're going to lock this border down. And from that, we go back to my dream that I had just recently. These checkpoints are starting to break down. They're starting to move east. Turkey is starting to apply pressure from multiple fronts, and they're actually bombing this whole front down here. So as they're moving and squeezing the Kurds out, and now that they've got this border, they can start to squeeze them down the border of Iran. And like I say, it's going to be like a funnel. They're going to start to apply all this pressure, and they're going to start to move the Kurds down to around Shush. Iran, as it tells us in Daniel 8. Daniel was taken to the palace of Shushan in the province of Elam next to the river Ulai. And so that's about in this area right here. So as these Kurds are getting pulled down in through here, we're going to start to see Daniel 8 effect happen. I believe that Iran and the Kurds will be completely absorbed into this Turkish Ottoman Caliphate that's being built by the fall equinox of 2021, or about 9 to 10 months from now. This is going to move quickly. But as they start to move them down through here, they're going to start to, like I say, the squeeze play. They're going to shove them all the way down to Shush, and then as they funnel them down into this area here, they're going to then effectively take out both these countries, and the geopolitical environment will be extreme at this point when this happens. When you're taking out a major player like Iran, it is definitely going to affect the whole geopolitical globe. So this is something to watch. This is important because this will then seal Erdogan's crown. He will get his crown. He'll get his Ottoman Emperor crown, and then he'll be able to join his 10 nations in allowing this to morph into an Ezekiel 38:39 prophecy. So once Iran is absorbed, Afghanistan's probably pulled into this mess, and the Kurdish nation now has been basically collapsed. If you go in here, look at what's going to happen. So he's taken over this whole front, okay? And I don't necessarily know Damascus is going to be a major player because most of his armor is over here now. So when he gets to Baghdad, he's going to start to move along this front, or this road, to, guess where? Through Jordan and down into Saudi Arabia and into Egypt. Like I've been talking about, Daniel 8 morphs through Daniel 9 through Daniel 10, and then once you get into Daniel 11 and he's in Egypt here, he's going to be pulled back between those two seas. So this is important, and this movement from here, from Shush to Egypt to Israel, as I've talked about for some time, if it falls within the parable, will happen around the end of 2023, and those 10 nations will then go into Jerusalem, and God gives them the ability to attack his country. And like I say, we have a decimation of a third of the Jews by plagues and famine. A third of the Jews are going to be decimated by Gog or by the sword, and a third will then flee to the hidden place or the remnant. So this is important that we understand how this is all going to play out in the next few years. And it's important that we understand the path that Gog is going to take here. I've said for a while, Erdogan is the white horseman. He's Erdogan of Turkey. The white horseman is Erdogan of Turkey, and that this is the catalyst. And we broke that first seal on Yom Kippur on October 9th of 2019 when he actually invaded Syria and started to create this 30-mile buffer zone along this border here. So it's important that we watch him, but he's in the process of now, they secured this northern border. He's going to start to squeeze all these Kurds down through here, and they're going to start to funnel over to the Iranian side. So as they're being squeezed, they're going to be shoved, and Iran's in a bad place because geopolitically, internally, they're a mess. The people don't like this government. And so if the Kurds start to force their way into this country due to an exodus of these areas up here, and they start to apply pressure on Tehran, and this government starts to see any cracks whatsoever, they're also going to have an internal war between the civilians and the government, as well as Turkey is going to come over here and crush them. And think about this one last thing. So Turkey now owns this area up here. They own this whole border down through here. They're potentially going to own all this down in through here. Okay, so this whole area that wraps around Iran is now basically going to be taken here before long. They own this up here. They're going to shove these guys down through here. But look at what happens if that occurs. So Tehran is in a really interesting place for Turkey to take out. He can come up from the north through Azerbaijan and hit Tehran this way. He can come in from here and hit him. He can come in from here and hit him. And he can come in from here and hit him as he's wiping out the Kurds here. And look at that. He'll have that whole area covered. And so he'll just come in and it'll collapse on Tehran and it'll take out the whole thing. It'll be quick because Turkey can fly their Air Force over and take them out. I don't know if they have any kind of navy that they have in place in Azerbaijan or over in this area. Azerbaijan may have their own military systems over there, and so they could come down here and easily hit Tehran, and you're going to have a ground force that's going to come in and collapse it from this side and through all these areas here. So Daniel 8 is going to happen quickly, and that's why it's like a whirlwind. It comes over and smashes them. I do want to point out something that's extremely important, and we need to pray for these Armenians, these Armenian people. They've lost everything at this point. They're being pushed out of their homeland. They're burning their homes. They're digging up their dead so that they can take these people with them so that the Turkish people and the Azerbaijan people won't desecrate their graves and things. It's extremely bleak over here. And so we need to pray for the Armenian people at this time because they're under dire straits. And I also want people to realize that you know, look at your situation and realize that you're in what I call the quiet days. Any day that you're in a place where even if you're locked down, you're not having to run for your lives and protect your families from, you know, a horde that's taking everything from you. And this government conceded. They gave them everything without a fight. You know, well, they did fight. They lost a lot of people. I shouldn't say that. But the government conceded. You know, these people wanted to fight for their country, and everything was just pulled out from them. From out underneath them, and they've lost everything. And so I want to play this one clip because I think it places us into a reality that we do not think about. And we need to place ourselves in these people's shoes because our world may change also. And you may be a refugee someday too in your own country. So think about that as you're watching this video, because I think it's a stark reality of what might be really happening that's to come.
Armenia and Azerbaijan brokered a peaceful deal that ended weeks of fighting and bloodshed. But for many, a fight for survival is still underway tonight. And with it, concerns about an uncertain future ahead. Our Patrick Reevell reports.
After weeks of ferocious fighting, the war for Nagorno-Karabakh has ended, but the loss continues. Some of the images coming out of the contested region are too gruesome to show. Bodies piled on the side of the road in uniform. It's hard to tell which country they're from. This week, Armenia's defense of Nagorno-Karabakh buckled to Azerbaijan, setting off an exodus. Vehicles packed with wounded soldiers, traffic snarled to a crawl as ethnic Armenians try to get out.
I don't want to leave. I want to stay at home, in the village, but we were told we have to leave.
In Armenia, the shock and anger are palpable. Protesters storming government buildings in Armenia's capital, throwing bottles and hand sanitizers at politicians, furious by what they see as a surrender by their prime minister.
We have come here to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. From today, he is considered a prime traitor of his country and his people.
The current conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh is decades old. A war in the 1990s saw Armenia triumphant, leaving ethnic Armenians in control and forcing hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis to flee. In September, Azerbaijan launched an offensive to retake the region, unleashing a large-scale war. Civilian areas bombarded, Azerbaijani drones taking a heavy toll on Armenian forces. Thousands of troops killed on both sides.
All I know is that I'll have to bury 2 of my cousins tomorrow. How should I feel?
Tens of thousands of civilians displaced. Armenian refugees were left living in hotels and kindergartens. But this week, the war came to an abrupt end. Azerbaijan took the town of Shusha, called Shushi by Armenians. The city is strategically located near Nagorno-Karabakh's capital.
As soon as there was an Azerbaijani flag over Shusha, President Aliyev could basically declare victory.
Soon after, Armenia effectively surrendered, forced to make peace on Azerbaijan's terms.
In the existing situation, there was no chance of making another decision.
The two countries agreed a deal to end the war, brokered by Russia and Turkey. Under the deal, Azerbaijan will keep the areas of Nagorno-Karabakh it has taken, and Armenian forces will withdraw from several others, leaving the region split. 2,000 Russian soldiers have been deployed to keep the peace. They rolled into the region within hours. In Azerbaijan, euphoric celebrations broke out in the capital of Baku. Hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis were displaced during the 1990s war. Some of them dream of returning. Now it is Armenians who have to leave. Some even burning their homes rather than leaving them for the Azerbaijanis. The latest turn in a terrible cycle that's been repeated here for over a century. The fight for land always coming at a heavy human cost. Tatavik Virabyan is one of those who's lost her home. She's also lost her brother. He was an Armenian fighter killed at the front in October. She's come to pay her respects at his grave.
For the first time in days, I found the strength to come and tell him that we had to give up our town.
The end of the war means no more families need to say goodbye. But the sense of loss and hatred left this time means that once again, this conflict is not buried. Patrick Revel in Moscow.
So I just wanted to go over this graph real quick, this little timeline. It's just a one-page timeline that goes over what's coming in the next 7 years to the return of our Lord Jesus. I've talked for some time, and I've said this for a while. We had Erdogan invade on Yom Kippur on October 9th of 2019. We started to see the corona reports. I've said for a while that Erdogan, or Gog of Ezekiel 38:39, is the white horseman. He will be the catalyst that bring on the sorrows and birth pains. And we started to see that we blew that shofar on Rosh Hashanah. That started to speed up the Daniel 8 effect. I think that's when Erdogan started to really ramp it up. That was around September 19th of 2020. You're going to start to see, and that was that warning I was talking about in Jeremiah 4:5-9. Okay. And if you look at the 2,300 days from the tabernacles over here, so if we come back over here and look at the tabernacles here, you realize that if you take the 2,300 days backwards, that on June 30th, I believe this is when we're going to start to see a lot of pressure applied on the Kurds and them being funneled down towards Iran. And by the fall equinox of this next year, 2021, you'll have already seen Iran crushed, which will then start to usher in the Ezekiel 38-39 war, where Erdogan gains his crown. Israel starts to lose favor. Erdogan gains his crown. We see an acceleration or the crowning of the Ottoman Emperor, Erdogan, and that will then take 10 nations into Israel by the end of 2023. So that's sort of what this timeline's been talking about. I believe the Daniel 8 effect is going to accelerate now that Turkey owns that northern border, and he can start to apply pressure on the Kurds from multiple sides, and you're going to watch that pie shape collapse into a position where they're going to end up between Baghdad and Shush, and once they get into that position, we're going to see Turkey crush them, I believe. So just sort of keep an eye out on the Kurds. They're a really important player in end days. So I just wanted to go over the Armenian situation, how this is going to affect Daniel 8, and how I believe this is going to accelerate this. And if you look at the timeline, when I was talking about that June 30th date, those 2,300 days, and you work from now to the fall equinox, we're only talking about 9 or 10 months to that point. So I believe that Iran will fall in less than a year. I've said it for a while. I believe the fall equinox is an important time and that the death cycle does matter. And so keep an eye on that. I don't know if I'm right, but it's what the dreams were telling me. And so let's see what happens in the next year. God bless everybody. Find the narrow, thin door, which is Jesus. He's the only way to the Creator. Repent, get right with God. Things are moving fast. You need to see what's coming. You need to tell people. You need to spiritually prep as well as get your oil in your lamp. That means you need to be a prepper in all levels, physical as well as spiritual. You need to place food in your homes. You need to make sure you have medicines, hygienes, and all kinds of stuff. And depending on how this election goes, if Trump does overturn this election, the liberals will go insane. And so the streets will light up, and it may not be an opportunity to get things easily in the near future, because I believe the certification happens to happen by December 14th, and we're going to start to see whether these court arbitration of these voting irregularities do turn up to on Trump's side, or we get a Biden presidency. But I believe either way, we're going to see a lot of disruption on the streets, and the corona is going to start to really kick in the next month or two as we work through flu season. And we're going to see that major spiking in the middle to end of January for sure, or a little prior to that. So anyway, God bless. Get right with God. Find the narrow door, Jesus. Repent. And God bless everybody. Have a great night.